Welcome back, guys. Sherry here. Lynels. Now, if you played Breath of the Wild, you know that these guys were one of the worst enemies to try to defeat. However, here in Tears of the Kingdom, things have kind of changed. We have a lot more in our arsenal to defeat these guys. So it's really not skill. It's just a matter of knowing how to defeat them and what you need to do so. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. And the beauty of this is you can do it relatively early on in the game. Now, I will leave timestamps in the description below. That way, if you just want to skip forward and see the method that I'm using to kill these guys, you can do so. However, you may miss some really important information because there's a few things we need to do and or obtain before we encounter these guys. Now, the first thing we want to do is make our way to the castle. The best way to get there is to jump from Lookout Landing. Now, depending on how much stamina you have, you may want to pack yourself a lunch and make yourself some stamina replenishing foods or elixirs. Best way to do that is just to cook up some crickets, which we can find by cutting grass. And we just want to cook up some crickets with a monster part because crickets are considered critters. Therefore, you have to cook it with a monster part or you're going to get dubious food. But the more crickets you put into it, the more stamina it's going to refill. But I do suggest you pack yourself a couple of those. And guys, I'm using the glide suit, but you don't have to have it to get here. But if you'd like to know where to get it, which you can also get it relatively early in the game, I'm going to leave a link in the description. But we're just going to head right over here on the left-hand side of the castle. You're going to see this little bridge. Now, you can land on this bridge, but be really careful because when you do, it's going to break out from underneath you. So you may want to try to land a little closer to the opening. Once we make it into the opening, we're just going to drop down and run to the back, where we are going to find a Royal Guards Claymore. And here is the location on the map, and it's located on B1 of the castle. Now let's go back to Lookout Landing. Now guys, when you're in the castle, if you go to the map and you're not aware, all you have to do is hit the X and it's going to take you back to the world map. Then let's just go back to Lookout Landing and we're going to jump back to the castle again. But this time, we're going to go through the front door. Now, when you get in here, you don't have to worry about enemies. There's no enemies in here, so just run straight in until you see these steps. Run up the steps, and then you're going to run up a second set of steps until you kind of see, I guess, a boulder laying on the steps. Right behind this boulder, behind some of this rubble, we're going to find another Royal Guards Claymore. Now, if we just kind of run around through here, we're going to find a Royal Guards bow. Let's get both of these. And if you jump down and run up these steps, you will end up finding a Royal Guard shield and a Royal Guard sword. We don't need those, but those are some good weapons to grab. And all of these weapons will respawn after a blood moon. So all you have to do is come back here after a blood moon and you can collect these weapons all over again. Now, once we have our Royal Guard claymores, there's something else we can do. We can make our way to the Elden region and look for these little guys, which are called an Octorok. They suck wind in, but they will throw out a fireball at you. However, if you drop a weapon in front of them, they will suck it in, they'll shine it up, and they're going to spit it out with a modifier. Now, I do highly suggest that you save your game before you do this. Let him suck it in and see what modifier you get. And if you don't get the modifier you're looking for, all you have to do is reload your game. And what we're looking for is an attack up. Now guys, this was tedious. It took several tries and all I got was an attack up 3. So like I said, it's not necessary, but it can help because I'm getting ready to show you how we are going to double the damage from these Royal Guard Claymores. Now I also want to mention each Octorok can only do this once. So that's why I think it is vitally important to save your game before you do this, then reload it if you don't get the attack up modifier. Now there are several of these Octoroks scattered throughout the Elden region, and each one of these can do it once. Once they do it, you might as well go ahead and kill them. That way they can respawn after a blood moon and you can do this all over again. Now there are a couple more things that you're going to need, and I'm just going to assume that you have them. And that is the bomb flower, puff shrooms, and sundelion. Now the bomb flowers and the puff shrooms, we get these in the depths. I do suggest you set your sensor to them and then use your ultra hand because they will glow. And you can find both of these right under Hyrule Field in the depths. Now the Sundelions, you're going to get those on the Sky Islands. However, you can collect the Sundelions in Hyrule Field. There are some that grow there, but you need to get yourself all 3 of these. And these will respawn, so just check back often and you can always find more. And one more thing you're going to need is a rocket. Now guys, you're probably only going to need one, which we can get right here from this device dispenser, and it's easy to get to from the Hyrule Field Skyview Tower. Now before we go battle these guys, let's get ourselves set up. So I'm going to recommend that you cook yourself some food. Now you will need some stamina replenishing elixirs, so make sure you still have a couple of those. But we're also going to need a couple of other things. If you want to get a 3 times attack power, you can cook yourself up 5 mighty bananas, and that will give you an attack power for 4 minutes and 10 seconds. However, I'm going to be using the Barbarian Armor, and each piece has been enhanced once by a fairy. So if you don't know where to get that, I will leave a link in the description. Now, we're also going to need some gloom resistant food. That's what the Sundelions are for. Now, if you cook up 1 Sundelion, you can mix that with an apple or some meat or a piece of chicken, whatever you happen to have. But if you cook up 1 of those, it's going to recover 3 gloom hearts. Because if these guys hit you, you're going to get gloom damage. Now, if you cook up 2 Sundelions, it will recover 6 gloom hearts. So just cook up however many that you think you may need. And make sure and have yourself some regular food that will just recover regular hearts, because when you recover gloom damage, it's not going to fill your hearts. So just make sure and have yourself some regular food as well. Now, of course, we can also cook ourselves up some hearty food. If you have some hearty truffles or hearty bass, then it will give you a full recovery plus some extra hearts. So just cook up whatever you kind of think you might need as far as recovering hearts. Okay, so now let's get our weapons set up. Let's equip our Royal Guard's Claymore. And what we're going to do to this, guys, is we're going to fuse it with an item. Now, I'm going to try to use an item that I think most of y'all might have, but you can sort this by fuse power. So just use something strong. But I'm assuming that most of y'all probably have a diamond. So I'm going to fuse this one with a diamond. And as you can see, it went from 32 to 57. But we're not finished yet, guys. We're actually going to double this. Now, what we want to do is literally slam this weapon on the ground. Just hold down your attack like you're going to do a charge attack until Link slams this on the ground. And we're going to keep doing this until we get the notification that our weapon is badly damaged. Now, once you get that notification, you can actually slam it on the ground 2 more times before this weapon is going to break. And once we finish slamming it on the ground, now you can see it has gone from 57 to 114. Now that's some significant damage with a weapon. So now, depending on how many Royal Guards Claymores you have and how many you want to use, I would suggest you at least have 2 in case you break one. Just do the same thing. Fuse it with something strong, slam it on the ground until it's about to break or it's badly damaged, and then you're going to end up with double damage on this thing. On my next Claymore, I did a Stalnox Horn, and I ended up with a damage of 122. So just play around with your materials and see what you can come up with. And don't forget, guys, you can always save your game before you fuse these items to your weapons. That way, if you make a mistake or you don't want an item fused to your weapon, you can just go back, reload that game, and fuse something else. Now, the last couple of things we're going to do is let's make sure and equip our royal bow. And then let's take out a shield and let's fuse a rocket to a shield. But unequip that shield and use a different shield when you first start engaging with these guys, because we're going to use that shield at the very end. And once you have yourself completely set up, this is very important. I feel like you need to save your game, because this is going to take the anxiety away from losing anything or dying. That way you can kind of practice and then just go back and reload your game. And here is my location on the map, guys. The best place to find these Lynels is at the floating Coliseum in the depths. And it's right underneath the Coliseum ruins if you're looking on the surface. And one of the best ways to get there is you can drop down in this chasm, the Great Plateau North Chasm. And you can kind of make your way around and reach the floating Coliseum. Okay, so now I know some of you are saying, well, Sherry, this weapon is completely damaged. If you hit him, it's going to break. Well, yes, that is true. But I'm going to preach what I preached in Breath of the Wild. If you mount these guys, your handheld weapons will take no damage and they will not break. Now, if you slam this on the ground or you try to flurry rush him, it's going to break in one hit. As you can see right here, I'm mounted on him and my weapon is not breaking. But then I accidentally slam it on the ground and it breaks in one hit. So this is why you might want to save your game and just practice this, because it's very easy to come off of these guys and accidentally slam your weapon on the ground. And this is why it can also be very beneficial to have more than one weapon. But let me show you how we're going to do this, guys. This requires no skill at all whatsoever to defeat these guys. Now, there are a total of 5 Lynels in this Coliseum, but when you first run into the Coliseum, the first Lynel is going to come out of this gate right in front of you. And what you want to do is just shoot a puff shroom at this Lynel. And then make your way over to the cloud of smoke. And you can keep up with the Lynel because he's going to have an arrow above his head that is flashing. And what we want to do is make that arrow turn into a question mark. He just kind of stands there because he can't see you. And you want to keep the cloud of smoke in between you and the Lynel. As you can see, it was so easy to kill that first Lynel. Now you want to throw some puff shrooms as soon as you kill him at your feet, because we want the bow that he drops. And as soon as he dies, another Lynel is going to come out. So make sure and keep the smoke in between you and the second Lynel. That way, in case your bows are full, you can get into your inventory, swap out the bows, but it's just a lot easier to use a multi-shot bow, which is what these guys drop, than using a single bow. Now, I still have my Royal Guards bow equipped, but I would suggest that you go ahead and equip the multi-shot bow, because just in case you can't get close to the Lynel when he is in a cloud of smoke, we can actually use a Kisi eyeball, and that will help us in getting a headshot to stun him, and then we can mount him, just in case he's not going to stand still for us. Now, sometimes, like right here, he might have his back turned to you, and it's a little harder to get a headshot on him, even if we are using an eyeball. So you can kind of just walk up to him and get a little bit closer to him, but you don't want him to see you, because if he sees you, he is going to come after you. And I just kind of want to show you guys, like right here, I run up on him and there's no smoke around him. When he sees me, he's going to start to do an attack. Now, the best way to get away from that is just to run back into the cloud of smoke where you can throw some more puff shrooms. And then sometimes you can kind of tell where his face is through the smoke, so you can easily just shoot him with an arrow. You can use an eyeball, whatever works best for you. But once he is stunned and he is kneeling, then we can mount him. Now right here, when I jumped off of him, there was no smoke, so he saw me, and as you can see, he's starting his attack. So when you get thrown off of these guys, the best thing to do is to shoot some puff shrooms at your feet. And I'll do that on the next one. I'll show you guys how to do it. But you just want to keep this cloud of smoke around this Lynel, and it just makes things so much easier. And I cannot stress this enough, guys. Once you kill one, immediately throw some puff shrooms around you, because the Lynels that are coming out of these gates, if they see you while you're trying to gather these materials, they're going to come after you. So just make sure and throw some puff shrooms as soon as you kill one. And look right here, I still have my royal bow equipped, so make sure and try to equip one of those multi-shot bows. It is so much easier to get a headshot. I tried 2 or 3 times here and still couldn't get one with an eyeball until I changed, and now I have a multi-shot bow. And right here, this is what I wanted to show you guys. When you are mounted on one and they throw you off, the best thing you can do is immediately shoot some puff shrooms at your feet. It's going to help you so much more than anything else. And something else, just like I did here in the beginning, you don't always have to have a headshot to stun them and mount them. If you have enough smoke around them and they're standing there just kind of looking sort of stupid, or they've got a question mark above their head, you don't have to stun them. You can easily mount them just with them standing there. Okay, so that was the third Lynel. We've got one more Lynel until we get to the very last Lynel. So I'm going to go ahead and skip to the last Lynel because it's a little different than any of these first 4 Lynels. Okay, once you kill this fourth Lynel, now you can throw some puff shrooms at your feet if you want to, just in case you might want to collect the bow or the materials, or you can just leave your materials on the ground. It really doesn't matter. But I do suggest you grab the bow because it's a lot stronger than the previous Lynels dropped. But what we want to do is let's take out our shield that is fused with a rocket, because this last Lynel, he is covered in armor, and we want to bust the armor off of him. Now he is going to have a little yellow bar above his head. When that yellow bar drains down, that is when his armor is completely gone. And this is also where your stamina elixirs may come in real handy, because if you're up in the air and you're starting to run out of stamina and maybe you just want to hit him some more with some bomb arrows, drink you one of your stamina elixirs. That will replenish your stamina, and you can just kind of stay up in the air and just keep pelting him with bomb flowers. And guys, we can use the traditional methods just like we did in Breath of the Wild, where we can do the flurry rushes and the parrying on these guys. But this is just such an easier way. It doesn't really require any skill using these puff shrooms. But if for some reason you would like to learn how to parry or flurry rush these Lynels, I will leave a link in the description, and I show you guys exactly how I taught myself. Now, it is a Breath of the Wild video, but the mechanics still apply here in Tears of the Kingdom. The mechanics are exactly the same. The only new move that these Lynels have is if you get too close to them, they have a headbutt maneuver, which it can be flurry rushed and it can be parried. But now, if you would like to find out where you can get the Zonaite Armor, which will allow you to use Zonaite devices and it won't use so much of your batteries, click here. And I really appreciate you guys watching. If you have any comments, please leave them below. If you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing, and I will just catch you guys next time.